Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the top teams for the upcoming Sunshine Cup, and there are going to be a lot of very interesting ones as well. First, the Sunshine Cup going to be the normal Fire, Grass and Ground type cup. 1500 CP, so Great League Edition, and Charizard is not allowed because it would be too overpowered, so that's for the cup. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe to the channel because only around 42% actually subscribe, but the number is going up, so definitely shout out to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thanks a lot, helps me out quite a lot as well. So let's take a look at the first one here right now. We're going to take a look at the meta analysis here, and the first one is going to be the meta that is going to be available here. And as you can see already, the first 4 Pokemon are all flying types, and it's going to go on later on as well, with rank number 9 being Gliscor, rank number 11 being Staravia, which is kind of interesting, Noctowl on 12, and basically out of the first 15 Pokemon here, we have basically 10 flying type Pokemon or something like this, so it's a flying type dominant meta. We're going to have also nearly a buff to the entire meta. As Arid Ace got buffed, we see like something like Rufflet being now at rank 2, which is kind of funny, but also Gligar with both the Dig as well as the Aerial Ace buff is now in the meta and definitely one of the strongest Pokemon to use for it. You see also Pokemon like Steelix here with the new move Breaking Swipe being very high up there, as well as the Diggersby with Quick Attack plus Scorching Sand being very high up there as well. Something like Ninetales doesn't even use Scorching Sand. For Diggersby, you need Quick Attack in this meta, as you're going to have a lot of flying type Pokemon and you kind of want to hit them with Quick Attack plus Hyper Beam. So this Pokemon also has some play. We also have a team around this one. Otherwise, Gligar definitely one of the strongest Pokemon. We're going to take a look at why as well now. As you can take a look at the first team here, we're going to have the Flygon here. Flygon in the Shadow variant. You need the Shadow variant here, by the way. The normal variant just doesn't do enough damage in my opinion. With Scorching Sands as well as Dragon Claw going to be insanely strong in the 2-shield scenario. Here we see the 0/1-shield scenario where it also already looks fairly decent. But if you take a look at the core meta, other than Abomasnow, you can stay in against nearly everything and just go for the 2-shield Dragon Tail plus Dragon Claw down, which seems to be such a strong, core in general, like such a strong Pokemon to use for this meta, so definitely try that one out. Saysop's going to be most of the time here Vigoroth plus Dubwool. Those are going to be the best ones. Here in the back we're going to have Talonflame or the Moltres, mainly to cover up for potential charm users, which is only really the Whimsicott, I think, plus the Wigglytuff, which are both not that common most likely because they don't seem too crazy good in the current meta in my opinion, so I don't really expect to see so many Charmers. But also it's going to be the best cover up for the Abomasnow as well, which of course is something that you kind of want to have for the Flygon. Very cool, interesting team already in the beginning here, as it can move on with more of a meta line here, which is going to be around the Shadow Abomasnow. And here's the reason why I like the Gligar a lot in this meta, and I think it's going to be the most common Pokemon in this meta as well. The reason is for this, that most of the other flying type Pokemon are part normal type. Gligar isn't. And the good thing about this one is that you're going to be able to resist counter, which is going to be very common from the Vigoroth, which is going to be one of the main Saysop's. So Gligar is very decent against Vigoroth, which is going to make the matchup way better for you, and also going to help out the Abomasnow with that one, because you don't really want to have Vigoroth against Abomasnow either. So you're going to be able to counter the hardest answers of the Abomasnow with your Gligar in the back. Here, for example, there are a lot of matchups that are kind of shown a little bit off for PvPoke. For example, Abomasnow against Pidgeot, you still should win against Pidgeot definitely in the 2-shield scenario. I think that's just like some average buck there from PvPoke, so definitely a positive matchup for you. Otherwise, definitely Abomasnow one of the most common and best Pokemon for this meta. Moving on now to team number 3, and this is going to be a team that you kind of have to play a little bit differently. As you're going to see here right now, we're going to have the Vigoroth in the lead, which is of course a very strong Pokemon in the meta, and we're going to have the Abomasnow and the Gligar in the back. What you kind of want to do with this team is you kind of want to stay in with your Vigoroth. No matter what you're going to encounter in the lead, there's nothing that really lets you to swap out here. You're just going to play the Dawn out, and in the 2-shield scenario, you're going to be really good with the Vigoroth, as you are going to be able to beat nearly everything here. There are only a few Pokemon that can really beat you, and it's still going to be a close matchup. So against nearly everything, I think other than Blaziken, you're going to have somewhere of a matchup which you can actually win, which is really, really nice for that. So try to get either the switch or the shield advantage with your lead, and then align your Pokemon in the back, depending on what you're going to encounter. So like the backlane basically forms a really great core, which we already talked about in the team prior, and basically Vigoroth is just trying to stay in there in the lead and trying to help your line later on. So, next team coming up here, going to be around Rhyperior, which is actually completely underrated for this meta, which I kind of want to talk about as well. Rhyperior getting the move Smackdown. The pre-evolution doesn't get Smackdown, so Rhyperior is way better than the pre-evolution because you need Smackdown on this Pokemon. And as well, you're going to get Breaking Swipe, which of course is going to be good in neutral scenarios, but also Superpower, which is going to be able to punish a lot of other Pokemon. So, the likelihood of you going to encounter some kind of flying type as a Say-Stop in this meta is going to be insanely high. So what you can do here right now, you're going to have a lead that's going to be really good against a potential Swampert, and you're going to have a Say-Stop, which is just going to be very safe. But if you're going to have basically a positive lead matchup for your Superior, which is better than it actually looks here, by the way, against Vigoroth, you win the 0 and the 2-shit scenario. Against Gliscor and Gligar, you can still do a ton of damage. I would just stay in there most likely against those. So, like, the matchups are actually better than it looks on paper here. But, like, if you have a positive lead there and they swap in a flying type Pokemon, the game is basically over because you can just smack them all the way down with Rhyperior and punish whatever wants to come back in with a Superpower or the Breaking Swipe. Superpowers needed just because of something like a Vigoroth, something like a Double, something like a Steelix. For those Pokemon, really needed to have the Superpower on this one. Next team coming up, you're going to have a double counter line. This is something where you can also run nearly everything else on the lead as well. You can run basically any type of flying type Pokemon here in the lead. I decided to go for Pidgeot first because Pidgeot is the rank 1 Pokemon in this meta, which you see on paper as well. Pidgeot is going to be worse than it looks here on paper, by the way, because a lot of times P-Poke just goes for the Feather Dance bait and then hits the nuke afterwards, which doesn't always happen. Still a very strong Pokemon, still going to be one of the best Pokemon in this meta, but it's not as great as it looks like here. So, like, it's definitely still a very strong Pokemon, definitely really worth it to play. Otherwise, we're going to have here in the back 2 Pokemon that are going to be able to beat potential Steel-type Pokemon like the Galarian Stunfisk, which is going to be available, or the Steelix, but also some kind of Rock-type Pokemon, like, for example, if someone is spicy and runs Mecargo, which I don't have a team around now, it's definitely a decent coverage in the back here. Next one, going to be Triple Normal. Not a lot that I really need to say about this one. It's a fairly simple one. You can also reverse it, by the way, and just use Vigoroth as a Say-Swap and Double in the back, or Double as a Say-Swap and Vigoroth in the back, and use any of those Flying-type Pokemon that you see here in the lead as a combination of it. This is going to be a very common line anyway. Has been before, and, like, honestly, it's going to be everywhere. Next team coming up, we're going to have team number 7, going to be an ABC line, so like something that's not like ABB style, which I also kind of like to have sometimes here. We're going to have team around Swampert, which is kind of cool. Swampert kind of likes to have Abomasnow around it because Abomasnow is good against both flying type as well as grass type Pokemon. And Swampert doesn't really want to face those, so this is the main reason why we have it. Pidgeot is just the best Say-Stop in the meta, most likely, together with the Vigoroth, so like that's the main reason why we have it in here, and because we already have a fighting type weakness in the lead, I didn't want to have a fighting type weakness as a Say-Swap, and that's the main reason why we have it here. Again, I feel like the normal Swampert is currently a little bit better in the meta, and compared to the Shadow variant, so like if you have a normal variant, I would actually prefer it over this over the Shadow one. Here we're actually running Sludge Wave, just in case you're going to get up to a Sludge Wave and you have like something like an Abomasnow against you can actually just one-shot them with that, which is really nice to see. And in general, you don't really need the Earthquake, as a lot of Pokemon are just part flying type anyway, and Hydrokin is just very strong, especially after the Earthquake nerf. I feel like Sludge Wave is just the way to go here. So, team number 8, going to be Ufisk. Ufisk is going to be very cool. Unova Stunfisk is going to be actually an interesting Pokemon to pick here because there are so many flying type Pokemon, and this is going to be the best answer for something like a Pidgeot, for something like Rufflet, or something like even a Staravia if you want to. But it's also going to be very neutral against a lot of Pokemon. Especially after the Mud Bomb buff, you're going to be able to do more damage against most Pokemon here. Will have a decent matchup even against Vigoroth, Double, even against Miltank. You're going to be fine. Against Tropius, at least you're still going to do neutral damage, but the opponent going to do super effective damage against. So there are a lot of Pokemon that you can still take on with this Pokemon. It's mainly basically a trap for those flying type Pokemon. Vigoroth, Say-Stop, kinda clear as well as in the back. Abomasnow, you can use the normal Galarian Stunfisk as well, but you're going to have then a triple counter weakness, which I don't really like. So Unova is kinda nice here. I feel like it's a cool team to use in my opinion. So let's move on to the second to last team for today. going to be a team which is going to be double steal here. We're going to have the Razor Leaf variant actually of Tropius, which is better than the Air Slash variant in my opinion. Razor Leaf is going to be of course resisted by those flying type Pokemon, but you don't really want to beat flying type Pokemons anyway with the Tropius. As well as Razor Leaf gives you a better matchup against Gligar, and actually I think you can win this in some scenarios against Gligar, which is kind of funny. But otherwise, if you are too scared about Gligar and you see too many Gligar in the back, you can still run something like the Quick Attack Diggersby as a Say-Sop, or you can run the Swampert in the back, which also would work out fairly well for you. So depending on what the meta is really going to look like, which we don't know yet, of course, you can adjust this team, use Diggersby instead of the Steelix if Steelix doesn't work as a Say-Sop. But I think Steelix does work as a Say-Sop, as you can see here, even you can beat the Gligar, which is kind of wild. And yeah, Swampert in the back also works out against most Pokemon there. So definitely an interesting team. You can also use Diggersby, Say-Sop, and Steelix in the back. Something like this would also work out super well with that. Of course, you would have in this current scenario a big weakness against those something like a Blaziken or like in general fire type Pokemon. But again, especially the Shadow variant of Steelix is so good in the 2-shade scenario with Breaking Swipe if you don't resist it. And there's next to nothing that really resisted in this meta, so very strong Pokemon. And the final team for today, going to be a spicier team on here, a team with 2 Ice-type Pokemon. And I kind of want to show you a little bit how strong Piloswine can be, as well as Mamoswine as well. As something like Pidgeot really doesn't appreciate it. Gligar gets completely farmed down here. Gliscor, of course, Abomasnow doesn't even appreciate the Piloswine. So, like, those Pokemon are actually kind of interesting. Of course, they're a little bit squishy and a little bit spicier, but especially the Shadow variant of Piloswine looks like a lot of fun to play. Maybe making a video about it as well. But yeah, this is going to be it for today's video. What are you going to play? The Ultra League or the, yeah, what's called the Sunshine Cup here? Let me know below. I'm most likely going to make another Ultra League video as well, but I have to see about this one. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed one. See you then, and bye!